My name is Fleur, and I'm a daughter, a sister, and a girl. Now, we all know that a lot of the time men and women are treated differently, and as a woman, this has forced me to assess my place in the world. As a feminist, I recognise how sexism impacts our views on gender, but I'm hoping there's more than these derogatory views.
The biblical role for the woman is that she's to be a helpmate, and on issues she submits to her husband.
In this documentary series, I've explored the ins and outs of gender, but in this episode, I consider a new side completely, the LGBT community. I've had many trans and genderqueer friends over the years, which I feel gives me enough of a starting point to explore how LGBT identities affect our perception of gender. I want to know how non-cisgender people affect regular gender roles. In fact, is there even a need for men and women at all?
Gender has no description anymore.
Gender's whatever you feel like is whatever. You say you're a man, you're a man.
It's about using your queer identity to relate to all people who are oppressed.
Let's get started. You may learn something.
We see gender everywhere. We learn what gender is from our parents, from school, from work. Whether we like it or not, we see gender in adverts and in film and online. The definition of gender has stayed static for so long, but now, it seems, there's a gender revolution. Not only are cisgender people tired of being defined by their sex, but LGBT genders are coming out in droves.
I actually came out on Facebook just after Pride with a photo. So it just gave me so much strength.
Of course, attitudes towards the genderqueer have adapted with the times. They have always been here, but now society is slowly becoming more tolerant. It's not been long since society mostly accepted Caitlyn Jenner for who she is as a woman. We also championed actresses such as Laverne Cox, another transgender woman, or Ruby Rose, who identifies herself as gender fluid. It's also not been long since we mourned the death of David Bowie, an artist who identified himself as genderqueer. And it's not just celebrities coming out for the world to see. 10% of the UK now openly identifies as LGBT, with 4.6 of those being genderqueer or transgender, and that's just openly. It's estimated that it's closer to 30% of the British population that are LGBT, including those who are still in the closet. I've been researching to find out the less obvious differences between men and women, the social, psychological differences. But from my research, I've realised there's a lot more that we need to do. Like transgender and intersex and non-binary people of alternative genders, LGBT genders, they make up a large part of this conversation about gender. And I've realised that they've been completely ignored. To find out more about LGBT perceptions of gender, I'm headed to London Pride. With millions of gay, lesbian, bi, trans and queer people attending the event each year, I'm bound to find someone who will talk to me about gender. At its core, Pride is a protest starting in 1969 at the Stonewall Inn in New York. In England, homosexuality was decriminalised in 1967, but in America, police were still raiding clubs and pubs. They arrested homosexuals regularly, and this often included violent assault. But one night, a series of spontaneous demonstrations protesting a police raid broke out and didn't stop for several days. Pride is in remembrance of this event, starting in London in 1972. Since then, gay marriage has been legalised, but Pride goers recognise there's still a lot left to do.
Pride should challenge, agitate, motivate, fight and get better rights for LGBT plus people and to fight for equality throughout the world.
I found LGBT society organisers Gracie and Molly, who've agreed to talk to me about gender.
I think there's cultural definition as well. I don't necessarily think that would be the end of gender. Gender's whatever you feel like, it's however you want to express yourself. If you want to have like completely non-traditional gender roles, like if you want to reject gender, that's fine. If you want to like be, I'm a housewife, and like, you know what I mean? I think everyone should do what they want to do, but they shouldn't impose on other
I see the attraction in views like Gracie and Molly's, but I'm beginning to realise that life just isn't this easy for many genderqueer folk. I'm Skyping with trans woman Felicity Messer to see what life is really like being transgender.
You're not a feminist, you are not fighting for the freedom and equality of all people. You're fighting for a very narrow view of what you define as women, and your fight should not be on your terms, it should be on the terms of the people who are oppressed most. And by denying that trans women are real women and refusing to fight for them is really highlighting your privilege and how you will only fight to defend